Hi, welcome to my channel where we provide an alternative view to the standard narrative. Today I would like to talk to the recent sort of statements, papers that the Chinese have made available. And this is basically a support of my previous assessment of Putin's speech. So if you are interested, please continue watching. Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you remember correctly, I recently made a video regarding the speech that Putin has given to the Russian House. And I've said basically the way that he spoke, the words that he said, yes, he had said it many times, but the idea and the feeling that I got from the speech was that Putin has decided that this is the red line, and the red line has been crossed, and there is no more turning back. Whatever he thought about the West, whatever his wishes were or his dreams were of joining the West, those are all have been terminated, and now he has realized once and for all that there is no future in the West itself, in between the West and Russia. The West have chosen basically their attitude and their hatred against everything that is Russia, and they have expressly stated that their aim is to destroy Russia and break it up in smaller pieces. And how can you find him fault, and how can you even argue against any such statements by the West? Now, if you look at the Chinese, we know that the Chinese and, Xi Jinping actually and Putin are big friends. They support each other. They had sort of different views. Both were very diplomatic. Both were very patient. But each one had the responsibility to look after the interests of their own people and their own country. And therefore, there was a slight difference in approach to the West, and especially to America. But there are also two different types of countries, where Russia has tried to show patience and wanted to have security guarantees, and have been fighting for the last 30 years to survive it and to re-establish Russia as a player on the world affairs. China has mostly developed its economy and developed economic ties with the West, supplied them with cheap labor, supplied them with massive labor force, and basically subsidized the living standards in Europe and in America by their cheap labor and the pegging of the yuan against the US dollar. And when it came now to the firewall in 2022, with the special military operation of Russia against Ukraine after more than 8 years of patience and tolerance, you could see that basically the Chinese supported the Russians, but they supported them from a type of neutral position. They did not sanction Russia or try to influence Russia's SMO, but they understood what it was all about. But they didn't openly supported it in definite terms. Yes, in actions they did support it, but not in, call it, speech. They always called for peaceful negotiations, the respect of sovereignty of countries, and that peace must be negotiated, and etc. and etc. And they did mostly that because they just like Russia, believed in America and the West. They believe that they can have a proper economic relationship with the West. They thought they could convince America to, by diplomatic means, to be more accommodative and more peaceful, and try to force America to abide by international law and the UN Charter. And I believe, just like Putin, they wanted it too much, and that caused them to be perceived as being naive. But make no mistake, neither Putin nor Xi Jinping or the rest of the Chinese government are naive. They are incredibly intelligent. But because they wanted so much, they believed they could achieve that type of goal and peacefully subdue America's hegemony and Europe's subversion, if that's the right word, submissive attitude towards America. It is like you have multiple options available that you can do. You can plan A, B, C, D, E. So if this changes, then you can always execute plan B. And if that didn't happen and this happened, then you can execute plan C. So you have a lot of options, and that is how the Chinese saw it. Even in spite of Trump's hostility towards China, Biden's hostility towards China, which is now also openly expressed as their main enemy, even far beyond Russia's status as an enemy of America. And the whole attitude of establishing an Eastern type of military confrontation between Taiwan, the buildup of American military equipment, and friends or blocks or agreements, defense agreements that the Americans did. So it was clear that the Americans were planning to surround China, just as they did with Russia, and then finally try to contain the rise of China. But again, like I stated, the Chinese thought there are still various options available, which they could exercise, so they had to be patient and had to see what was happening. Well, the first paper that was released by Chinese, now I will leave a link to all three of them, was a description of the US hegemony and its perils, and it was released on the 23rd of February this year. And in this, I've never seen actually a document issued by the Chinese. The Chinese were always diplomatic. Yes, they made some threats. They said, yeah, if Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan, then there would be consequences, and America would be responsible for the consequences. And if they employ this type of sanctions, then China will have to react and do that type of consequences and reaction to it. But they never ever went as far as clearly stating and describing what the USA and America is. Now, Putin has been describing it for a while now, and in his last speech, he clearly also, when he said the red line was, he didn't say it, but he expressed his opinion in that respect, in a informal manner. In any case, this, if you can read this article, it clearly describes the American attitudes. America is a threat towards the security and peace in the world. It's like it made several paragraphs and so on, headings. The one was a political hedge. It's not that we don't know about this. Everything that we know, we've been telling you a long time ago, but this is the first time, in my opinion, or to my knowledge, that China has expressed his opinion of America in full 100% detail, with no punches spared. He clearly told them what the Americans are. Without any nice talking, diplomatic type of language and so on. No, straightforward. You are a bully. You are a warmonger. You are destroying countries. You think you are above the law. And for me, again, it's the same thing. China has now decided there are no more options A, B, and C, and D. Those are gone. The red line has been crossed. There is only one option still left. And that is plan whatever Z they have decided on. It's no more Mr. Nice Man against the West. It's no more accommodating. We have decided, me and Putin have decided on the path forward, and that forward path is to establish a Xi Jinping, not me. And that path is to establish a multipolar world and a different financial system. We're going to basically sidestep the Americans in all aspects that we can find. We're going to approach them and prepare ourselves for military confrontation. We will establish friendships all over the world. We will establish diplomatic relationships with whoever wants to be with us. And we will support and invest in countries that want to be part of this new multipolar world. Stuff the Europeans, stuff America. We will go now on our own plan, and that is Plan Z, and that is a multipolar world. No more appeasements, no more Mr. Nice Guy, and etc. and etc. And then in the second paper that they released was basically how they see this, it's called the Global Security Initiative concept paper. And that basically you can see is a proposal. Shit, my cat's hair is all over me. Sorry, excuse me. In any case, this paper, it basically tells you what the multipolar world will be and how the world should be looking like in the future. And it goes back to basic international law. It goes back to, let me read you the headings. The core concepts and principles. Stay committed to the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, basically for every country on the world. And not fear, basically, an invasion from America if you don't do what America tells him. Number 2, stay committed to respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. It's all logical stuff. It's all has been said before. But now it is contained in an official document that was released on the same day that this paper about describing American hegemony and America as a bully and as a violation of international law, of a hegemon empire, of creating chaos in terms of countries, political stabilities, peace, supply chain problems, sanctions, illegal sanctions, and all this other stuff. Everything that we basically know, but is now on black and white. And then this one followed, and this is basically a correction terms. We're not going to, America, we're not going to allow you to do that anymore. We're going to enforce this type of, or we're going to strive to implement this type of principles that will govern the new multipolar world. Number 3, stay committed to abiding by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. That means the UN Charter is basically the international law. States commit to taking the legitimate security concerns of all countries seriously. Stay committed to peaceful resolving differences and disputes between countries through dialogue and consultation. Stay committed to maintaining security in both traditional and non-traditional domains. And then it says basically priorities of cooperation. So what is their priorities and what they want to achieve? But these are basically the 5 or 6 principles that the multipolar world should. And we were there. It's just that it got out of hand, and America finally deviated from this international law and respecting sovereignty of other countries. I mean, who gave America the right to decide whether Iraq should be democratic or not? And why should Afghanistan be democratic or not? They have totally different cultures, and those cultures have worked for them for centuries. And now you want to enforce a new type of principle, a new culture, which is Western, based on democracy, which in any case we know is all a farce. It's just a tool in the hand of the oligarchs and the rich people. So, and it was formed as a tool to promote hegemony and submission of other countries to Europe and to America. Who gave them the right to decide that? And that is basically the core principles. Nobody should interfere with nobody's other's business. And everybody should look at their own business inside their own country and try to resolve that. And then respect other people's decisions for what they want to do and how they want to live. And then they abide by international law. In any case, the third one was basically the peace agreement, China's position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. Now, they have been warning or saying that they will release such a paper. They have done it now. It is all simple, basic principles that has to be applied. Common sense. It's like the Minsk agreement. It's not 100 pages long. It is basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so it goes on, points, and that's it. Start negotiation. Solve the humanitarian crisis. Talk to each other. Respect the sovereignty of people. Respect the UN Charter. And I say all these things have been mentioned before. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there has, in my opinion, there has been now a clear shift in Chinese policy, and especially Chinese attitude towards the West. Yes, it will still make some idle threats. Yes, it will still counter some diplomatic issues. Yes, it will sort of try to counter American threats and sanctions and stuff like that. Yes, it will basically accommodate or show patience against America, but appeasing them, that's gone. Trying to integrate America in the new system, that's gone. Spending time to convince these idiots in the West to change their ways, no. It is now full steam forward for the multipolar world. And that sort of sorry, English, I'm battling the English. Support Putin's red line, unspoken red line, or there's a different English word for that. Strengthen, no. Basically, China's and Russia's future vision is now walking like this. Not like this anymore, where certain stuff were interleaving, the Russian side and some of the Chinese side. No, it is now this side. Straightforward. And they will go full out for their achieving their goal. And they will work together because they have the same goal. But in any case, they know that, and They have been long time sorted out all the problems. And if anybody actually wants to deviate, like the Americans are trying to woe India as a possible ally against China and so on, then I have to say, if the Indians are idiots enough to believe the Americans, then they can deserve to be defeated and destroyed as a proxy, a player for American hegemony. But I'm not so sure that the Indians will fall for it. But you never know. Maybe the Americans are good negotiators or bullshitters or salespeople, that they might try to sell India something which you cannot refuse. But again, if they wanted to do it, then unfortunately that would be very sad and very catastrophic. But I see that some African countries are not listening to America anymore. So if India thinks they are superior to the Africans, then they should accept that, hey, don't listen to the Americans. So maybe one day we will also see a final red line in India's policy and a commitment from their side to join the other two big players in supporting and making the new multipolarity world a reality. Any guys, so that's my story for today. If you like what you heard, press the like button, subscribe if you haven't, tell your friends if you haven't, and press the bell, whatever. And until next time, cheers.